a while back we had Stephen A. Smith on the show, and then we had aired some highlights of the interview on our social media post, and you commented and kind of went back and forth with him for a minute. Tell me what that was about and your guys' relationship.
So Stephen A. is somebody I give a lot of credit to on a lot of fronts. I think it's fair to say he's the face of ESPN. And, you think about somebody like, say, Stuart Scott or even other icons that have become that. To have a black man that is the face of this network
Huge.
is a huge accomplishment. And if it's true that he's the highest paid ESPN personality ever, an equally big, accomplishment for him, especially considering at one time he was kind of on the outs, with the network. So for him to have gone from that to this is pretty special and spectacular. And when he had his own show, quite frankly, Stephen A. was very purposeful in putting black journalists on the show.
He spoke on that.
Yeah, he gave a lot of us a platform to talk about our perspective, our opinions, and just get experience doing television. And I was one of the people that regularly appeared on, quite frankly. So I'm always grateful for him for giving me that opportunity and for what he's meant in this business in terms of, black journalism. So as they say, reasonable minds can differ. And I've heard some of the things that he said about Colin Kaepernick. I've been asked about it a lot. I've generally resisted commenting on it. I don't really like to comment on other people's opinions for the most part, especially people I used to work with. It could get awkward and somebody might take it personally and all that kind of stuff.
Sensitive.
And yet, nevertheless, my ass did not follow my own advice. And when I saw what he said, the clip that you showed on your show, I was surprised on a lot of levels because Stephen A. may not still consider himself a journalist. Because I get it. Because when I did TV, I didn't either. Because I'm like, look, I'm not going into locker rooms anymore. I'm not necessarily interviewing people outside of them being on my show. I am not. I've become friends with some athletes. Like, I'm not in that traditional role that I used to be in when I was a newspaper reporter. And so me and Mike used to always joke that we were former journalists, right? Mm-hmm. Even though that's how people saw us, because we realized we were entertainers then because we were on TV every day. And so maybe he sees himself in more of a hybrid role, but it just seemed like a line was somewhat crossed by him admitting that he had spoken to or through back channels, got Colin Kaepernick a workout or helped in that cause, him and Jay-Z. And I just thought that was really interesting because on one end, the network you represent is talking about how they want to stay out of politics. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end, you're doing this. So you're sort of like inserting yourself and creating the news. It just, that's not typically the role that we play. And I'm not here to play Stephen A.'s journalism professor, but I was always under the impression that was somewhat of a no-no to do. Mm-hmm. So there was that part of it. And then considering what he has said about Colin Kaepernick, then I have to wonder how personal this is to you, because if you felt like, it's kind of like if you, let's say in a dating situation, if you hook one of your homeboys up with your homegirl.
How much you really liked her?
Well, you just like, and you vouch for him with her. You like, nah, he a good dude. I know what you heard, blah, 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 blah. And then he show up and he act a fool. You like, damn, dog, like, you're going to be mad.
Right.
And that's not to say that Colin Kaepernick did anything wrong, but he kind of sounded that like, oh, I went through these back channels, hooked you up with this job, and then you show up in a Kunta Kinte shirt, embarrassing me in front of my family.
Right, right.
Like, to take. So it's just sort of like, I just thought that contaminated his opinion personally. And it, I generally kind of disagree with his perspective about Colin not wanting to play, and even the whole thing with the shirt. And really that tryout was nothing but a setup. I mean, it was nothing but a setup. It's like the NFL was just looking for a way, an excuse to point to something where they could say, no, he doesn't really want it. No, and I could tell you this as a 49ers fan. I watch all of Colin Kaepernick's professional games, all of them.
Nice.
He looks in better shape now than he did when he was playing. And he's done, he was never out of shape, but I can see the body transformation that he's done. Why would somebody who has not played in a few years keep themselves in that tip top of a shape if they were not intent on playing.
Really love the game.
He really does. And people have to understand something was taken from him.
Right.
He didn't get hurt.
For no reason.
For no
I know the
reason.
feeling.
No reason.
He didn't get hurt. He didn't get cut. He didn't, he eventually got cut, but you know why he got cut. But, like, he was not the one who engineered his own demise. He got essentially his career taken from him because NFL owners are cowards. And it's
Right.
just that
He
simple.
got
Two
railroaded.
reasons. They're cowards and Donald Trump. Those were the reasons. And so when I saw, him sort of, going off about him not wanting it and the Kunta Kinte shirt, like he could have showed up in what you got on. They wasn't letting him back in the league. These people have had his number for 3 years. They have not called. They have not brought him in. If they were serious, they would have brought him to the team facility
Right.
to work out.
A real one.
And then that's how it's normally done. The NFL doesn't set up tryouts outside of like the combine, but they don't do that. And so it was just a farce from the beginning. And so this idea that Colin Kaepernick should have, kissed the NFL's ass more to get back in. It was like, so you're asking somebody who decided to take a knee to protest racial and social injustice to suddenly kiss the ass of the same people who just took his career away.
don't work like
it
that.
It doesn't work that way, right? So we disagree, but I'm of the opinion. I saw a lot of this on social media. People calling Stephen A. sellouts and all that kind of stuff. That was, to me, over the line. I know what Stephen A's been able to do for other black journalists. And I was not in any way insinuating he was that. I just disagree with what he said. Now, I didn't want it to become some big social media thing, despite the fact that's where I originally commented. And so when he commented back, I made sure to say, hey, bro, I'm taking this off Twitter. I'll call you.
Right.
That way we can have a conversation and not have some, full fight in open view, because there's nothing social media loves more than to not just see two, personalities go back and forth, but two black people fighting in public. And I wasn't about to do that,
Yeah.
even though I disagree with his position. So, I called him. I did call him. I left a message. I left him a text. I have yet to hear back.
Well, when he said that, honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, as much as you killing him, you tried to help him get a job. Like when he said it, I'm thinking like, that don't even sound right. You know what I'm saying? I was waiting because we wanted him on the show to get to know him better and for people to understand him. Like we understand what he did for us and to be here, to be in this game. He's had a lot to do with it, but at the same time, that statement threw me off too, because I've seen all the stuff you said about Kaepernick. Now you're trying to help him, like it fucked me up too. So you wasn't on.
I was just a little confused at the role, but again, I think that the one thing that I wish our conversations could really take a step forward. Conversations that are in our community that get outside the community. And, I know black people are always, a lot of times we're of this opinion, like, we can't discuss this in open view. The white people gonna see us. Like the white people don't care about, a lot of them don't care about us anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And it's not like we can meet once a month and like, hey, black people, let's all come together and discuss our internal community issues. Sometimes it spills out, but I think it's really constructive. It's really not constructive, rather, when we start to have this litmus test for blackness based off disagreeing with people's opinions, right?
Right.
Look, I ain't gonna act like it's not some people out there that are operatives in our community. There are. We know who they are a lot of the times.
There's a lot of ops out there.
A lot of them, and so I understand that really does exist, but I personally am not comfortable calling black people those names in public, coons and Uncle Toms and all that. I'm like, I'm not even going there with somebody.
And that's why he was comfortable coming on our show, because we always have respect for each other, and we as men should be able to, and even as a black race, we talk about this all the time, should be able to disagree without disrespecting each other.
There it is.
And we have a problem with that. We have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
And it's all or nothing. Like, I don't fuck with him at all now. Like, no, he just didn't say something that aligned with your. It's okay.
It's
you
okay.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah. Right. No, it's. And it doesn't have to. You don't have to indict somebody's whole record based off of it. I caught a lot of flack because, I wrote that I didn't agree with Jay-Z partnering with the NFL. Mostly because I felt like the NFL, and this is not to demean or belittle Jay-Z's obviously a very astute business knowledge, or that he doesn't know what he's doing, but the NFL is a different entity, and I just felt like they are using him to regain some credibility with the black community that they had lost because of how
Yes.
they treated Colin
Yes.
Kaepernick. They want their Super Bowl show. They don't want there to be shame associated with the halftime show anymore because the last couple years, Colin Kaepernick, what happened to him has been hanging over the Super Bowl, their biggest event, and they wanted to eliminate that. And they even, the owners have talked about it privately, which became public, based off a New York Times report about how they felt like they needed a liaison to talk to us and help bridge that gap that was widened by Colin Kaepernick and hello Jay-Z. So I just felt like the NFL was playing a game where they could shift the focus off what they did and shift it on whatever, darts Jay-Z took them all, right? And suddenly it's like they care about social justice issues, which they didn't before Colin Kaepernick anyway.
Right.
So it's just, they're just playing this magnificent game of chess. And I just felt like he got caught up in that. And he rapped about it. He said he didn't need them, right?
Yep.
He said they're going to need him.
Yeah.
And they did.
Right.
And I didn't think he should have gave them the leverage.
Well, and how can you take the next step? Because that's all the videos kept saying. With Jay-Z saying, "Well, what's the next step? Let's not talk about kneeling. What's the next step? Well, how are you gonna get to the next step without Kaepernick?
Well, the next step, I
He
think
should be involved. Kaepernick should be involved.
Oh, he should definitely be involved. But the next step, and this has always been, I think, the difficult part of seeing this movement that was created around Colin Kaepernick. It was an individual decision that became a movement. It was always meant to be an individual decision, and it became a movement. Other people got inspired. That's fine. And I understand that even with the Players Coalition that received the money from the NFL for various social justice causes, they're looking for an end in sight. I do understand that and get that there has to be an end point to this. But the next steps had kind of already been in place. Jay-Z's done a lot of magnificent social justice work. The Trayvon Martin documentary, the Khalif Browder documentary, all he's done in the community. His record is unquestioned in that area. So that had already taken place. Colin Kaepernick had been taking next steps. What he's doing to get felons re-entered into society, giving them clothes to interview in, the Know Your Rights camp, teaching young people about their rights when it comes to the legal system and the police. Already in motion. You don't need the NFL for any of that. The next steps that the NFL has to address has been a hot button issue in the offseason. Why don't you have more black coaches? Why don't you have more black GMs? Those are things the NFL directly has control over. They can't do shit about police brutality. That's not really their role.
Right.
But they can do something about what their league looks like and why they've never had a black owner. That's on them. And if he was going to apply any pressure to them, it should have been about those things and not about the social justice stuff, which essentially, to me, was efforts that he didn't need their help on necessarily. I mean, it's good to have it, yes, but he didn't need them. They needed his credibility, not the other way around.
Right.